I just got a job as a graveyard worker. There are strange rules. It's not every day you find yourself applying for a job at a graveyard. I wasn't exactly thrilled about it, but after months of unemployment, I couldn't afford to be picky. Bills were piling up, and my desperation outweighed my hesitation. The ad was simple. Graveyard custodian needed. $20 hour. Night shifts only. Responsibilities include groundskeeping, light maintenance, and enforcing cemetery policies. Must be willing to work alone. I wasn't sure what enforcing cemetery policies meant, but the pay was good and the hours suited my night owl tendencies. When I showed up for the interview, the manager, a wiry old man named Mr. Harlow, barely glanced at my resume. Instead, he looked me dead in the eye and asked, "Can you follow rules?" "Yes," I replied, though his tone made it sound more like a test than a question. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. "These are the rules. Read them carefully. If you can't follow them, walk away now." The rules. The list was handwritten, the letters jagged and uneven like they'd been scrawled in a hurry. Always arrive by 9:00 p.m. sharp. Not a minute earlier or later. Do not, under any circumstances, leave before 5:00 a.m. The gates lock automatically, and no one will come to help you. Keep the grounds clean and tidy. Trash bags are provided in the shed. If you see a grave marker with fresh flowers, do not approach it. Walk away immediately. You may hear voices. Ignore them. If you see a figure standing among the graves, do not make eye contact. Walk in the opposite direction. The chapel bell may ring. If it does, lock yourself in the shed and stay there until it stops. At exactly 3:33 a.m., patrol the perimeter of the cemetery. Do not skip this step. If you find a black envelope anywhere on the grounds, burn it in the furnace in the shed. Do not open it. Under no circumstances should you enter the mausoleum. "Are these serious?" I asked, laughing nervously. Mr. Harlow's expression didn't change. "Deadly serious. Can you follow them?" I nodded, trying to mask my unease. "Yes, I can." "Good," he said, handing me a set of keys. "You start tonight." The first night. By the time I arrived at the cemetery that evening, the sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The place was larger than I expected, sprawling across several acres with rows of gravestones, a small chapel, and a looming mausoleum at the far end. I parked my car outside the gates and walked in, feeling the weight of the keys in my pocket. The shed was easy to find, a small, wooden structure near the entrance. Inside, I found cleaning supplies, a flashlight, and a metal furnace that looked like it hadn't been used in decades. For the first couple of hours, everything was quiet. I picked up trash, swept the walkways, and tried to convince myself the job wasn't so bad. Then I saw the flowers. Rule 4. Fresh flowers. They were sitting on a gravestone a few rows ahead of me, bright red roses in a glass vase. The flowers were fresh, their petals dewy as if they'd been placed there moments ago. I froze, remembering Rule 4. Do not approach. Walk away immediately. My instinct screamed at me to ignore the rule. It was just a grave with flowers, nothing sinister about it. But then I noticed something odd. The air around the grave seemed to shimmer, like heat waves rising off asphalt. A chill ran down my spine. I backed away, keeping my eyes on the gravestone until I was several rows away. When I turned around, I swore I saw a shadow dart between the trees. Voices in the dark. Around midnight, I started hearing them, faint whispers carried on the wind. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but the voices grew louder, more distinct. They seemed to come from all around me, murmuring words I couldn't understand. "Hello?" I called out, gripping my flashlight tightly. The whispers stopped. I felt a presence behind me, and every hair on my body stood on end. Slowly, I turned, expecting to see someone or something standing there. There was nothing. The figure among the graves. It was almost 2:00 a.m. when I saw it. A figure stood among the gravestones, its silhouette barely visible in the moonlight. I froze, remembering Rule 6. Do not make eye contact. Walk in the opposite direction. I turned and walked away, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. I could feel its gaze burning into my back, but I didn't look. When I glanced over my shoulder a few minutes later, the figure was gone. The chapel bell. At exactly 2:45 a.m., the chapel bell began to ring. The sound was deafening, shattering the silence and sending a wave of panic through me. I bolted for the shed, slamming the door shut and locking it behind me. The bell rang 12 times, each chime reverberating through my chest. When it finally stopped, the whispers returned, louder, angrier. I stayed in the shed until I was sure it was safe to leave. The black envelope. At 3:15 a.m., I found it, a black envelope lying on the ground near the mausoleum. It was sealed with red wax, the surface covered in strange symbols. My hands trembled as I picked it up, remembering Rule 9. Burn it in the furnace. Do not open it. The furnace roared to life as I tossed the envelope inside. For a moment, the symbols glowed, and I thought I heard a scream. A high-pitched wail that made my ears ache. Then it was gone, reduced to ash. The patrol. At 3:33 a.m., I began my patrol of the cemetery's perimeter. The whispers followed me the entire time, growing louder with each step. Shadows moved at the edges of my vision, and the air felt thick, oppressive. When I reached the mausoleum, I noticed the door was slightly ajar. I hesitated, remembering Rule 10. Under no circumstances should you enter the mausoleum. But something inside was calling to me. A low, melodic hum that vibrated in my chest. The mausoleum. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air was freezing, and the walls were covered in the same symbols as the black envelope. At the center of the room was a stone pedestal, and on it rested a small, ornate box. The humming grew louder as I approached. My hands moved on their own, reaching for the box. When I opened it, the world went black. Aftermath. I woke up outside the shed, the sun rising over the cemetery. My memory of what happened inside the mausoleum was hazy, but something felt different. The rules were gone, replaced by a single note in Mr. Harlow's handwriting. You broke the rules. You're one of them now. I don't know what he meant, but I haven't left the cemetery since. I can't. The gates won't let me.